Hello there, it's Mike.
And Katie.
It's episode 136. And what are we talking about today, Katie?
New movies.
This week on Cup of Rad. Look at that. Another week, another set of sexy reviews. That's right.
You didn't even have to wait super long this time. You know, we're back on most
Somewhat
schedule.
We're drinking coffee again because, you know what? We're going to get back to those over-caffeinated nerd roots.
Well, like this,
nerd
the
roots.
Nerd
roots.
Nerd roots. That's hard to say.
Yeah, it's like almost became Naruto.
Roots. Wow, maybe that's how that was created. This iced coffee is delicious.
Yeah,
I'm liking it.
Icy.
It's actually cool enough. Probably we could have had warm coffee, but this is just so much nicer. Actually,
a little refreshing.
It's good.
Still coffee.
Some coffee.
So new movies.
We have like all new movies. Like this is like unprecedented.
An entire episode of just new movies. And it's weird to think of because everything's been a lot of RADnesia. Mm-hmm. And for those that are newer and we have maybe coined the term, RADnesia is a movie we used to watch when you were younger and you watch now, and does it still live up to the rad expectations? Mm-hmm. Or did you have amnesia and realize it's really a turd? So
you're like, oh, well, it is not nearly as cool as I remember.
So that's really what we've been doing for a long time, and it's been very few and far between. And what's kind of terrifying for new movies is that new movies that have come out in this last little while have not been my favorite. Yeah, there's been very few that actually have stuck out in any I'll go back and watch. Yeah. There's been so many duds, and
it's been like, oh wow, new movie.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad that two of these new movies just were part of subscription service, so they're direct to streaming. Mm-hmm. Only one of them we paid for. Yeah. So do you want to just dive in?
We're diving right in. It's just super excitement for new movies, man.
Okay. So Amazon Prime debuted Chris Pratt's new movie, Tomorrow War. It came out last week, so it's somewhat new. But it's
not
new-ish.
Rewatch.
Right? So Chris Pratt's new movie, because that's what we said last week. We were like, we're going to watch the Chris Pratt movie because we couldn't remember the title. So Tomorrow War. It is directed by Chris McKay. He directed the Lego Batman movie and also worked on a lot of other animated movies. So this is his first real foray into live action. His first foray into live action was supposed to have been a Nightwing movie for Warner Brothers, but they canned that because he was cited as not having enough live action directorial.
So they canned the whole Nightwing movie just because he couldn't do it?
Well, they used that, I think, as a scapegoat.
Okay.
I think they were just like,
what reason can we find to not make this movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, there's, Warner Brothers and WB, and although they don't, the same company, Warner Brothers and DC don't like to give a lot of praise to Dick, so. No,
they don't. He deserves it.
Well, Dick deserves a lot of praise. You gotta really stroke his ego.
I know, right? Just constantly.
With a booty like that. But yeah, so he's hoping to direct a Nightwing movie still. It's still on his radar. So there's part of me that I mentioned before, I was a little scared about it because of how Grayson was treated in the Lego movie, but everyone in the Lego movie was treated poorly for laughs. So I get it. So Tomorrow War. Mm-hmm. What is Tomorrow War? What is Tomorrow's War?
Tomorrow's War sounds terrifying is what it is. So it takes place, the movie starts current time, and then it's the idea that in 2050, there is a all-out alien, war going on. Genocide of human race. There's 500,000 people left on the planet. They've been fighting this war for a couple of years, and their last resort is to send people back into our current time and essentially draft people in bringing them into the future and fighting the war. Yeah. So it is, a draft from current into the future. You serve a 7-day tour. And I guess these
if you survive.
White Claw, were they?
Yeah.
Aliens. And so Chris Pratt plays...
Isn't White Claw like an
alcoholic beverage? Yeah.
Surprised I didn't see
is it White Claw or is it White Spike or White? Now I don't know.
Wait, what?
Now I'm questioning it. What the aliens were called?
Oh, I can look it up.
White, sharp, pointy things.
White sharp. This white stabby things.
I mean, that's what I would have called them. Jeez, oh. So Chris Pratt plays an ex-military, specializing in science, of some sort of field of science. He's a scientist. He's now a teacher, though, because he can't seem to break into a lab in a research facility of his own. And so then he gets drafted in, and he plays a big part only because he was in Afghanistan and he did a lot of combat rescue missions. White Spikes. See, that sounds better than White Claw. White Spikes. Yeah. White, sharp, pointy things. I like that.
Damn, you just write that movie. White, sharp, pointy things. That should be the title.
So he gets drafted. I don't know, how much are we spoiling?
We can spoil it.
We're spoiling it all over?
If someone's seen it, they've seen it.
Yeah, okay. That's true.
So he has a father that he's estranged from because his father took off. His father's played by J.K. Rowling. J.K. Simmons.
Jacked J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, must have been the movie where all those photos came from.
Yeah.
When they were like, wow, why has he got that? Why is he balding, got the big bushy beard, and why is he so jacked? And it has to have been because like everyone was trying to say it was for Justice League, but I think it was for this movie. It had to win.
Yeah.
Because like he was just like ripped. Like.
So yeah, he plays a ex-military conspiracy theorist, not a fan of the government.
Conspiracy Santa.
Santa, yeah.
Hey, you notice there's been a lot of Santa jokes in media this year? Sexy Santa, conspiracy Santa. Like now they're just...
Bad Santa.
Oh yeah, there's bad Santa.
Still there's a Santa. I know it's old.
But like, there needs to be the Justice League of Santas. The Santaverse.
The Santaverse?
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's a movie. There's a comic
of the Santas.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Who can draw comic books? Let's write this.
See, then you can use Bad Santa there.
The Santaverse. All the Santas get together to save the world from an alien race.
Including Fat Man?
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Oh.
Who can draw? Like, yeah.
Well, that's pretty awesome.
That's just gonna be like making Santa a badass.
So Tomorrow War.
Sorry, Tomorrow War. So, okay, you know what?
Yeah, go for it.
Tomorrow War was a long-ass movie.
It was 2 hours and 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, it felt like it was
4
2
hours.
days. Like, it was long. But it was like one of those ones where it felt like two separate movies.
Yeah.
But then also felt like it wasn't long enough because it should have been 3.
Yeah. It was like 3 distinct chapters.
Yeah. Maybe it should have been a series.
Yeah.
Maybe like a 12 episode. And they could have had 4, like broken it up a little bit more or 9 episodes or something. Like, but it feels like it should have been like a trilogy. Like you should have had where they get drafted, head to the future, get in the thick, then he gets saved by his daughter. So end of the movie.
So his daughter.
Oh, did you not say that?
No, I didn't say that. Oh. That's very confusing.
Spoilers.
He told me I wasn't spoiling it, but now we're spoiling it. So when he goes to the future, the commander that is running the whole operation, you find out is actually his daughter that has now grown up. She was 9 when he left, and so she is now corporal of everything, and she's the head scientist as well. Because she always wanted to be a scientist as well. She was very interested in everything to do with that and memorizing facts when she was younger. And so then it's the idea of him having a little bit more of that extra protection to try to watch out for
versus everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. Because she basically, as much as she hated it, so her self is from the original timeline before the war, so it ended up playing out pretty much like the same way as like his life, where he hated his father and he ends up leaving her and family and ends up dying. And that's why they can send him back, because if you're dead before the
you have
time
to be dead in the time frame
that they
send you. So and
that was kind of cool though, to avoid like the paradox thing. And those that went back couldn't be born yet.
Couldn't have been born. So anyone, who traveled back to recruit anyone, they hadn't been born at that time period. So then you never had the idea of two people existing in the same time period, right? So they solved one problem that shows up for time travel, which was a really simple fix actually for that. But they basically, because they couldn't travel freely through time, they basically described it as, he said, two rafts, the idea that they're balanced. And basically you can switch people back and forth between these rafts, but they're fixed points in time, essentially. And you can, it's a wormhole between those 2 points, right?
And the future one's closing because it's moving forward.
Yes, it's getting slowly far. It's moving. They're the same distance essentially, and they're moving forward through things too, right? But things are kind of, and then also they're also getting under attack. Yeah. So, but so they in the future they don't know where these aliens came from. They have no idea. They know where they first showed up, but they have never found any evidence of a crash site, so they've never been able to solve anything. They're very they have one queen basically who's like super scary and strong, and she's a bit different physiology than the males, who are just basically protectors. And so they were having a hard time. So their mission, once he gets to the future there, is they had found a female that they want to try to capture and bring back and be able to try to create a toxin essentially to try to kill them all that way, because there's just so many of them. That there's no way they can actually outgun them, because they're almost like an exoskeleton on them, right? Which I know was a problem for us because it felt very hopeless. There were so many of these aliens, and they're only, they had those two vulnerable spots,
throat and belly, and
and then they shoot. They have long range and they're close, terrifying teeth, and then they shoot spikes.
Spikes.
Sharp, pointy things at you.
That like jettison you across the street.
Yeah, it was overwhelming amounts of scariness for them.
Yeah, and they looked scary too, because they were like, what if a Pokemon went bad?
Yeah.
Right.
Like I like the design of them. They definitely had a horror level to them. Like the action when they first got there, because they originally too, they're supposed to land 5 to 10 feet above the ground when they get sent into the future, right? I mean, which is bad enough. Can you imagine being dropped from the sky 10 feet above? Like, holy crap.
5 feet above is still going to be a bit of like a shock to your system when you land.
It's not like these people being center trained. They're just civilians, right? Yeah. But then when they go and send them, something is getting messed up in the future, and the GPS gets messed up, and their coordinates are off, and they drop them at like 300 feet in the air. Yeah. So they are raining people down. So immediately this massive army of people just gets
died. Dead. They did.
Down to like 12 idea. And Chris Pratt barely makes it into a swimming pool on top of a high rise. And so then they have to make it out of this building and into a rescue mission to try to save the research crew. And so that some of that action there is really cool. Yeah. The military attack, kind of coordinated effort, everyone working together and trying to sneak around. And the reveal of the monsters is pretty awesome, I think. Because they're in the shadows and you don't quite know, and they sound really scary. So that was done really, really well. The
first half of the movie, I think, was excellent. And that's why I feel like it should have almost been broken up into multiple movies. Because it would have then given the other parts more time to feel fleshed out and not feel rushed, yet also long, because, and this is also Chris Pratt playing the straight man. He's not humorous in this movie at all.
Yes.
He has a counterpart that is the humor. It was very reminiscent of like Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, which is kind of ironic now that his father-in-law is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Right? Especially that end scene where he finally does go up against the Queen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was the first thing you said was, holy crap, that was an Arnold move right there.
Right. So
yeah, because then you have that whole section there, and then you have them trying to work on the toxin and deal with the chaos of trying to capture the Queen, which is, she's overwhelmingly strong.
Yeah.
You know, it was a ridiculous amount of people. And
that was one of those moments where, like, that was an Arnold moment. That wasn't a Chris Pratt moment. He's not big enough to have been able to hold that thing.
Oh, my God, right? He comes down off this helicopter, and it's like, what, 6 guys couldn't do. He's just like, I got this.
Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. You are not big enough. It's not like he's been, like, actively working out, and still, he's a high school teacher.
Yeah.
He's...
Yeah, that was one of those things where I liked it. I was like that's like The Rock or the Schwarzenegger, or like the Stallone, like just like the big muscle bound, like, the shirt would have ripped off in that moment, and he would have pushed it back into the cage, right? Yeah, I was like, what? No.
Sure, you're dreaming, but okay.
Like, so,
but yeah, once they get it there, they had to like ridiculously heavy sedate this thing, and you knew as much as they're talking about something's going to go wrong, because they kept talking about how that she can burn through any toxin that they have tried, where it can take out the males, but she recovers from it before it can actually do her any harm. So he's, Pratt's trying to he learns more about what happened. His daughter tells him about him leaving.
And there's a time paradox,
right? It's difficult because then you look at that and you're like, but then when you go back now, it is that idea you've created a different branch in time, because he now knows something was wrong, or he didn't appreciate enough people or something like that, right? Because I think you make a good point that he probably, because he always said he wanted to do something special with his life, and when he didn't get that job in the first part of the movie, he likely just didn't feel fulfilled in his life, which would have been that original timeline. And now, he's got this big change and, success or something else to live for. And now that timeline is gone. Yeah. Even regardless of any of the alien warfare at all. Right.
So what made you really happy during the toxin scene in the what would have seemed like it was a climax of the movie, but was really just a sub-climax?
What made me? Now I gotta remember. When they were trying to create stuff?
When you were yelling at Chris Pratt and stomping your feet.
Now I gotta remember. I yelled a lot at the last half of the movie.
He was trying to save his future daughter.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just told him to let her go, and he was very caught up. Okay, so, the whole point of them going to the future and what he finds out, she brought him here so that to create these toxins, they didn't have enough time to basically manufacture enough of it to really make a difference, or the facility to make a difference in this current time period in the 2050. So her plan and her distribution method was to give it to him to bring back to his time, and then they could manufacture it and basically prevent this war from happening. So, the whole point of this was to save the past, save the future by saving the past, essentially, right? And he got so caught up on saving this version of his daughter in the future that it's like he totally forgot about his existing daughter. He forgot that there's a daughter in the past that you get to go back to, that you can redo and save her life that way. Yeah.
Not have her go through all the trauma.
Yeah, not go through all this. And he was so caught up on that, and he just ignored everything else.
Yeah.
And it was when that started happening, I yelled at him very well. It was very frustrating because you wanted to appreciate him, caring about her. But at the same time, you're not going to stay here. What are you going to save? You can't bring her back with you. You can't save the world. I'm sorry, but you've been here for 6 days. She's been here living through this war for 2 years. Who are you going to believe of the status of things right now.
Yeah.
Because even if somehow you were able to magically manufacture and kill all the aliens, the world is destroyed too. Like there's the fallout from all of this is overwhelming, and you'd rather save her than listen to her about going back and bringing the toxin and preventing it from happening in the first place. It made no sense.
Well, then he made some careless choices while he was holding the toxin. It was just it was like that tension for the sake of tension, where you're just like, you didn't need to put that in.
Because then he has this glass vial, of course,
Yeah.
The chaos of it all, where they don't put it in something, or, it's just, it was overwhelmingly suspenseful.
So eventually he gets back to the past, and he is able to manufacture the toxin through secretive ways.
I'm so happy though that I was waiting for him to like do something stupid and not give the instructions about making it or something, or like, because by the time he comes back at the same time, because the facility in the future was getting attacked, and he didn't want to leave his daughter. He wanted to just stay there. And because she was getting attacked by the queen, and he was just like, well, no, I can't leave you. I'm not going to abandon you. I have to save you. And he got so caught up on that. And it was like, so you're not going to leave the future. I mean, there's nothing you can do to stop going back to, because so it was creepy. By the way, way back when they got drafted though, this like thing they put on their arm,
biometric future tube.
Yeah, they it automatically works. It tracks you everywhere. It can't be taken off until you've served your time, and it had like a countdown on there. So it automatically kicks in just as everything is kind of crumbling down. So the wormhole basically collapses behind him as he arrives back. So now the people who are from the future that are in the past are stuck here, and there's no way to get back there. So I'm glad that he woke up and realized, okay, well, there's nothing else I can do. This sucks. I got to move forward now, and actually did make the toxins. So that was a good thing.
Yeah.
But then they decide they need to figure out where they actually came from.
Yeah.
Because they want to try. He goes and talks to his wife, and his wife actually has the idea. And the idea that you need to make sure that if they were found in Russia originally, that why is there no landing evidence basically in 2048? Well, maybe they were already here for years at least beforehand, and that's why. And how did they get out? And where did they come from? So they start on their quest to figure out why they're here and how they would have gotten here. And what did they find out, Mike?
That they were in an ice cube.
They were in an ice cube.
Basically.
Yeah.
Just giant ice cube. Or iceberg. Or glacier. Or whatever.
They found out how important volcanoes were, right?
Yeah. Totally. So you get this big, epic, trek. He gets his father to come along, and they head on out, and they're doing it illegally because the government has decided that because the gates closed, there's no sense funding this war anymore.
Oh my god. Okay, so here the future comes,
right?
The future shows up, and they're like, yo, we have this war going on, and we're going to draft all your citizens and take them to the future to help save this.
Because it's not as population control, because not even half of them came back.
Yeah, a third of them showed back up, and most of them that did come back had appendages 1 to 4 missing. They had massive PTSD. It's screwing up the population beyond compare right now. So, but they're gleefully running towards this, and they're fine with it. And yet, Chris Pratt's character shows up and says, hey, I want to go try to find them because I think I know where they are and we can prevent this. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I am not going to use taxpayer money to go and fund some crazy expedition. I'm thinking, well, if you, what?
Right. It shows the government official feel where they're just they're one-minded. And like you said, it's the reactive, not the proactive.
Yes. And that's the problem is it's like you have a chance to stop something before it happens. That is too speculative. But the holy crap, I have no choice but to comply with these scary strangers that came out of the sky in the wormhole with guns. okay, we have to just do this.
Yeah.
And we hadn't even questioned because there's obviously something that's already happening. And it's like, really, that was easier for you to swallow with a war in the future that you can't actually see
Then the possibility
of saving something right now.
They're frozen in some Russian glacier.
Like, oh my goodness. I was frustrated with that.
Yeah.
So they travel to Russia.
So they finally do find it, and they use the toxin, and they get to watch a few of them.
Here's Mike's cover.
Wither and die. And as they start withering and die, they just continue to watch it, and they don't turn around and inject the rest that are there with the toxin, which includes the queen. They wait until they burst and out and fall out, and the other ones then awaken. And now they have to fight them, and the queen takes off. But then you find out in this alien spaceship that there was like thousands upon thousands.
Yeah, it's overwhelming amount.
So and then pretty much everybody that came to on this quest dies.
There's only 3 people that came back out alive.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah.
So you end up. This is where it got.
Because then they blew up the whole machine, the whole ship, right?
So, which seemed to work.
And then, but wait. There's more.
I kept going. And so then they had to fight the... it was cool to see him and his dad get together and figure it out and work and all that.
I really liked the change that his dad made. That was cool to see him come around with the idea of like I kind of was a shitty father, but I can do this. Yeah. And, let me do this. And that type of stuff. That was pretty awesome. And how I like how he tricked him. And he sniped the queen.
Yeah.
He kind of made a scarecrow of himself and to trick her, and then sniped her a bit, right?
Yeah. So you had this big battle, and they couldn't survive.
She just won't die.
Well, it was funny. It was she just ripped through people before, and just 2 guys are just standing their own with pickaxes and claws and stuff like that. And then they go to use it. This was where I got frustrating because of that hopelessness feeling, right? The idea that they inject the toxin into her and then she just rips off her tentacles. So the toxin just stopped.
And that made no sense.
And then so it was so then they still had to fight her, and then the Arnold moment was when he jumps on her back and slits her throat.
And yet she still fights.
And both eyes are gone. It got that irritating frustration, right? Where it was just and then that's when he screams, die, and why won't you just die, right?
And then the best line, did you just tell it to die? You should have said it earlier.
Yep. So
overall,
it was one of those ones where it falls in that category where it wasn't a bad movie. But wait, It wasn't great. I would put it on, we talked about the other day, we were trying to figure out how to really explain this better. And if we were to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, for me, it would sit at about a 5, where it is a watchable film and it has some enjoyable action and some really cool designs and some good CG and some good, adventure. But because of the problems that it had, I would never watch it again.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why I put it at a 5. It's a middle-of-the-road, average kind of film.
Yeah.
It kind of takes away your blues and gives you some entertainment.
There was
for 2.5 hours, even though it feels like 6.
It was a very extended last time.
But yeah, I don't think it has any rewatchability.
No. Because there wasn't good enough action, and then for the length of and then the irritation moments.
Yeah,
it wasn't humorous, and the end scene with the craziness and the fighting moved past the holy crap, this is ridiculous,
to why won't it just end?
Oh my gosh, why won't it stop?
Yeah.
And there's a line there that I can deal with crazy. The monster is ridiculously strong and this crazy stunts are happening, but this was just beyond. So
that's where I sit from it, is you probably will get a kick out of it, but it has no.
Now they've told you everything about
rewatchability, I think.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the fact that it should have been like 3 shorter movies or a series where they could have like extended the areas that needed to be extended and shortened because like the first movie should have been basically learning about the war and heading to that first mission, and then everything going to shit, and then him getting picked up by his daughter. There's your cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Your second movie should have been all about trying to hunt the queen, so you could have had more attention with that and more excitement, because it just kind of felt like it just happened.
Yeah.
Right? And then finding the toxin and
it's like
the
that was what we all wanted to see, was all of that
the
stuff. The
wormhole crush, like everything ending and him getting sucked back. End of the second movie, right? Yeah. Third movie could have been a whole,
figuring out where they are.
Creating the toxin, creating your team better, allowing some of those people to actually have characters versus it really just being Chris Pratt, right?
Yeah.
As a character. Because even as with J.K. Simmons, as much as he had some moments in it, it was a throwaway character because he was barely in the movie. He probably had 5 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, you don't really know what anything about
right?
Him, yeah.
Like you could have made that third movie so much more dramatic as they reconnect in the tundra.
Yeah.
Right? As they take days versus the 5 minutes it seemed to only take them to find.
Yeah, it was no big deal to search the whole Russian iceberg.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it was, I think 5 was a good way to describe it.
Middle of the range. It's enjoyable for what it has, but you probably will never go back and watch it, if at all. Right. So
now what's next, Mike?
So Netflix has been doing, it's kind of a cool gimmick each week this month in July here. Fear Street movie drops. There's 3 of them, so not every week, but so we had 94 last week. This week we've got 1978.
Yes.
So this is telling the story of the witch at Fear Street and through the history. And this one brings us back to an event that happened in 1978 at Camp Nightwing. Huh? All about the dick. Because you know what happens at summer camp and horror movies.
Oh, yeah.
Camping. Good old
archery.
Wholesome activities. And this is an R.L. Stine novel series transformed into an R-rated horror trilogy. Last week we talked about how much 94 was very reminiscent of Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and a little bit of the 13 Ghosts kind of feel, like that era of horror. I really got a kick out of last week's movie, right? Because it is a full movie. And I was curious to see what was going to happen with 78. And I can say I'm pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed 78 quite a bit.
I actually think I enjoyed this one a little bit more than 94.
Yeah. Well, because it's more straightforward.
Yeah.
94 was a little bit more bombastic.
Yeah.
Right? Because of what it was emulating.
And this feels like the traditional slashers.
The Friday the 13th.
Friday and Jason and all of that.
Well, that is Jason.
Well, Friday. Yes. Damn it. I did it again. One day.
Hand over the badge or get out.
Yeah, I know, right? I think I hear when you say Friday, I process it as Freddy. So Friday the 13th.
It's okay.
No, it's not okay. I feel disappointed in myself.
I don't think so. It's like your one slip.
I know.
You're allowed one a year. You get to
traditional horror slasher camp
slasher, right?
Camp slashers, right? And I think it was straightforward, but I enjoyed it too because you learn more. It had solving that mystery of the witch a little bit more for things.
Yeah.
You're getting snippets of the curse feel, and I liked, you had a journal there and you got to actually see a bit more of her lair and her, the house that she would have been in and all these sorts of stuff. So you have these, this jump back in time. And I thought that was really cool as well. So
it still tells a story because the kids are still trying to, in the 90s, still trying to help the one's girlfriend. She's been possessed.
Sam, is it?
Yeah. And so she's trying to help her. so they go to the only survivor of Camp Nightwing.
Yeah, because they don't understand why, they modeled saving Sam after her, and yet this other girl did not get possessed afterwards, and Sam is now possessed and all crazy, and they don't know what the difference was. They're trying to figure out what the difference was.
Yeah. So we get the whole story, and it's another possession, and we get the brute stalker that is the Jason-esque that's going through the campers and
with a
killing
pickaxe, right?
Just an axe.
Just an axe. Oh yeah, just an axe. Yeah. Yeah. It was cool because then it's the same idea though at the end. With the other prior killers showing up to hunt them down, and yet you've added another back villain, one of the murderers from before. Backstory. So now you're slowly adding a bit more of them for things.
So then there's that 13 ghost feel, or that supernatural feel, where you've got all these extra ghosts, and you're you want to see more of their stories almost, kind of feel, because they could have made a ton of these movies.
Oh yeah.
If they really wanted to, because each of them details with.
Yeah, really, it's interesting because then you see that and you're like, yeah, I can see how these are books. Yeah. A book would just fill in
each year
murder, basically, right? And but yeah, it was sad, the sheer amount of people, the kids that died.
Yeah, because they're kids.
They're kids. I mean, that was not something you don't normally see. This is someone who's 12, 13 idea, and they're just getting totally hacked, obliterated, and it's wow, I'm not used to seeing that.
And no one that deserved to die died.
It was sad.
There was a whole group of Sunnysiders that I was just itching to see them get hacked.
Hope you die. And yet nothing.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because I think there was some symbolism there. I'm hoping it's symbolism and not reading too much into possible thoughts on the actual people that made these movies. Because the of course from 94 and now they're really, the town is split up into the shady side and the Sunnyvale, and it's really the the higher end and the rich, and then the poverty, and shady side is the one that's cursed, and there's definitely much more poverty there. There's a lot more problems, and also there is also more minority groups there, but basically anyone from shady side are the ones that are getting killed. And so it, as I say, the symbolism of the idea that, the quote unquote curse that can happen, that's hard for people to get out of poverty, out of their place that they were born to in life, and the difficulty. And, it's almost that idea that doesn't matter how good of a person you are, that the place that you are born in life does influence your future. And if you're born into a higher status, then it's easier to keep that status. And so it was really highlighted on this one a lot more because you had,
they had the color war.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And you saw them bullying each other back and forth, and how terrible the Sunnyvale kids were.
Yeah, and those were the people I wanted to die.
Awful. All the bullies, and it didn't even matter what age they were just mean and terrible human beings. Yeah. And it was honestly disappointing that not more of them died. None of them died. None of them died, actually.
It was all shady side.
Yeah, right?
So that idea that what their forefathers did destroyed them, and destroyed their people. Right. So it's crazy to see that feel and those repercussions in there, right?
Yeah, so there's some big themes they could actually pull out of something. Yeah. So slashery, right?
Right. So. Well, I think that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't realize, and they like to thumb their noses at horror movies, but a lot of them actually deal with a lot more political climate. Yeah. Than there's more realize.
Symbolism in there than people think of it.
Yeah. And I think you can hide, that's why the idea that, even something like X-Men is completely politically charged, totally. But people don't like to see that. They just think it's a superhero thing. And it's no, it's talking about people of color. It's talking about sexuality and gender, and
it's talking about anything that's
fluidity different. and all these things, right? And I think that's what horror movies do best too. So what I think has been kind of cool is to see with this series that it is actually a layered for being what looks just kind of like a stupid teenager slasher. And on the surface, it has that, right? But it still has more to it. And I think that's what's kind of fun. And I think we just haven't seen this kind of horror movie for a while, except for in like the B movies.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, like there wasn't really ridiculous campy humor in this.
No. There was more creative kills in the first one, and this was more straightforward.
Yeah, it took itself seriously without being overdone. And, you know, there was actual real heart in it, and characters changing and development and learning about them, because you know, the two main characters are sisters. The one that was from the future they're talking to and telling the story, and her sister. And you know, so there was actually a decent amount of heart in it as well, and you cared about the characters. And there was definitely brutality still too.
Yeah, I just, when you said that, I was like, I thought about the very end scene with the axe to the chest. Like that was actually pretty hard to watch.
That was, it was just like, oh my God, make it stop.
But like, as I was thinking about it, I was like, because like nowadays the level of horror that's being seen is more like this existential, like thinking, like very dramatic, very almost Lovecraftian, like Poe, where not a lot happens, but there is many layers, and that's where you get like your Hereditary and Midsummers and Lighthouses and The Witch, like these high concept horror movies. And I think everyone's gotten all like to the point where they're like, they feel enlightened with those, right? Yeah. And they forget that these ones can still be fun. Like you can still have a good time with these. And you can still
actually be enlightened by it.
And you can,
as I say, this one here actually had a lot of commentary on things.
And it's more easily digestible for a mass market, right? And who would have thought that we'd been saying, like, I actually enjoying, like, you know, an R.L. Stein, like...
Right?
Based.
I was expecting just campy ridiculousness.
Yeah, right? I didn't expect to enjoy these two so far as much as I did. Like I actually could see myself watching these again.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right?
And there's a mark of a decent movie. Like I can see us being like, yeah, I'd watch it again.
They're not A level by any means. Like they're not a 10. They're closer to like a 7. Yeah. If we're gonna start scaling things. Yeah. A 6, 7 kind of feel. Like they're still good. So I wouldn't just like thumb your nose down at it because it's something that's coming out fast and furiously on.
I think my only complaint really was the main character. She was just really angry.
Well, both of them have been. The main character in both movies
were really angsty, and this one I was having a hard time. Really, like I called her a bitch straight out one time. I was like, oh my God, she's just awful. Yeah.
So that is.
But once that, you know, you kind of hit that main, and they kind of came to a head, and then everything started happening, and then she really did change. She started moving kind of more of the upswing for things, and you started getting more. You thought, okay, there's a bit more of an appreciation for how she is and why, and so it wore off. And I remember by the time the movie was over, that had worn off. It wasn't like, oh, okay, I still hate you type thing. Like you were happy that she's okay.
And I wonder if that's a writing choice to really kind of like speak to the teen audience, and because so many people were a lot more angsty, like especially you see at those levels, like they're angry, they're, you know, and that feeling of being cursed, right? Like they feels like no matter what I do, I'm going to die.
And because if I think back
as to suck me in and destroy my soul
as a teenager, you know, I can appreciate that feeling a little bit more, that overwhelming. Well, as an adult, I can appreciate the overwhelming devoid of things, right? So, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm happy with it.
So Fear Street, 1666. It is 66. They went the 666. I think it is. Comes out next week. I'm excited to see that.
I'm very excited.
That's taking us all the way back to when the witch's trial.
Yeah, and it showed the trailer for it, and all the actors and actresses and everything are
from playing. The prior two movies will be playing ancestors. Yeah. So, which I think will be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. So you know, the Fear Street movies have been pretty good little horror movies, and they're on Netflix, so it's not like any going out of your way. You can have a good time. So I'm excited to watch the next one.
And last but not least,
So we finally got the next offering in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This one hit theaters in some areas, if your theater's open. And the other way to view it still was through Disney Premier Access, which I really like. Disney Premier Access is friggin' awesome. It was $34.99 in Canada, plus tax. And we can watch Black Widow as many times as we want until it becomes part of the streaming service.
And he will scream this from the mountaintops of how much he likes Premier Access.
I like it. I like Premier Access.
Okay, so these are the good things that were... Okay, it was cheaper for have all three of us be able to go.
Yeah.
We could sit and eat pizza.
Yeah.
We had a friend over and we were able to drink beer.
Yeah. We
were able to take any bathroom breaks we needed to. We could watch it whenever we wanted to for our time frame. We could watch it at 6, 7 o'clock, whatever time works for us, rather than trying to, figure it out. Especially those movies, it was either, especially difficult with kiddo, either it's too early in the afternoon or it's too late at night. So yeah, overall, win-win on everything for the Premier Access.
And I think that I like about Disney's Premier Access is the fact that unlike video on demand, you get to watch it as many times as you want. It's not a 48-hour rental. Yeah. It's a 3-month rental for your $34.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
So I'm excited to be able to then... I think this will be the first one that we actually do possibly watch again.
Yeah. Okay,
So Black Widow, it's our first offering of full feature-length film after having almost 3 series under our belt. This movie was supposed to come out last year in May and then got delayed and then got delayed and then got delayed. So was the hype worth it? Was the wait worth it? Was it good to get back to the MCU in cinematic fashion?
First off the gate, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was, as you had mentioned, coming into seeing a solo-esque film, after having so many series was a bit jarring. To get back and be like, oh, okay, this one's not connected. It's not part of a big overall story. It's all on its own. There's bits and pieces that make more sense because I've seen the rest of them. But it had been a while since we watched something that was a little bit more stand by itself and characters. Kiddo was like, who's this person? I don't know. We don't know who they are yet.
They haven't shown up yet.
I know who Widow is. Like, that's all, and we're going to go with that. But that being said, it didn't, nothing was wrong with the movie for that. It was just, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, overall, though, I was very happy with it.
Yeah, this one tells a story right after Civil War. Mm-hmm. So that's where it falls in the whole timeline of things.
So it kind of starts out, once they show the future with it, it shows them, the assassination of the king.
Yeah.
And so you at least it has a brief glimpse of giving you the timeline for things. So
yeah. Well, they talk about who's in jail and all that, right? Yeah, I really liked this. It was bombastic. It was crazy action. There was a lot of cool action in the movie. I had a lot of fun watching it. Yeah. The scene, the beginning of it is a lot darker than I was expecting from a Marvel movie.
We were questioning whether we should have sat with
even
Kiddo or not.
The opening credits even felt darker than anything that was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? Yeah. And I was kind of like, oh crap, what have we gotten ourselves into with him, right? Yeah. He's watched all the other ones, but it does eventually get into the traditional humorous, still colorful action, and it was okay.
Well, I mean, the concept of dealing with the Red Room is a dark concept.
Yeah.
And then the credits and everything. Kiddo leaned over. He's like, I don't understand what's happening. A lot of it is because the political commentary
they were trying to show the flash forward. Because it starts when she's 12, 13?
Yeah, it was early 90s.
Yeah.
Early 90s. So showing bits and pieces of that. But then, even throughout the movie, talking about the concept of everything that the Red Room was doing. And it was a bit more, I think, for him to process human trafficking, essentially, and stealing children and modifying their bodies and genetically changing them. There's a lot to unpack with that concept to really feel and understand the evil that they're actually fighting, right? So, but yeah, it was pretty dark to start out with,
right? But yeah, no, like I'm trying to think of like what to say about it.
I really liked. Okay, so it shows in the beginning that it shows the little family and Natasha's quote unquote sister, and then it jumps forward, and then they get reunited when she's on the run and trying to. She kind of gets so that her sister is still with the widows, even though she thinks Natasha had thought that she had gotten rid of the Red Room, and I really liked her sister, actually. She was very...
Florence Poe?
She was very humorous.
Yeah. Elena Belova.
She kind of... you were expecting someone for and that she is so badass, yet they fell right back into the older sister and the little sister field. And it was kind of endearing that way, because she's so messed up from her childhood trauma, and how much she still, you can tell, had that connection that she still held on to from when they were children, and looked up to Natasha, and she just wanted to be loved idea. And so you have that strain between the four of them of wanting to have a family and caring about that, and then being told through their programming that they can't.
Yeah.
So, but I think she did a good job. She was a fun character, that you really wanted to succeed. And I like that there wasn't that feeling between the two of them of double cross or anything. Like, I felt like it
was a pretty straightforward story, like from start to finish. Like it was nice to not really have too overarching. This film itself doesn't really have a lot of ramifications to the grand scheme of the MCU,
which I think is a good thing, because considering it taking place in the past, it would have been
so it's kind of refreshing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies I enjoy so much, because they just kind of stand alone on their own. Like, they succeed in standing alone, and just telling a story that doesn't necessarily affect the rest. Like, where, say, like the Captain America movies, they just became like the point ones for Avengers feel, right? Like, once you get to Civil War, it wasn't a Captain America movie anymore. It was just Avengers. Right. So I think, and that's how it's even for me. I just refer to it. I just refer to it as Civil War. I don't refer to it as Captain America.
You're right, because I totally forgot that was our third. It was another Avengers movie.
Yeah, it was. That's all it was.
Yeah.
So it was refreshing, because it felt, after having, our back-to-back Infinity and Endgame, we haven't really had a lot of just standalone, action for a while. Like, 2017 Black Panther? Everything else just seemed like it was connected.
It was all connected.
Like, even Captain Marvel,
it was weird, but it was
connected,
refreshing.
right? And even, like, Spider-Man Far From Home was still all connected. Like, they still were touched by the events that happened, right? Or, like, because, like, and this Captain one, Marvel other than was her, still like the setup of her for when she shows up in the other, right?
And this was just happened as a result of the other movies, because of her being on the run and everything like that.
And that was such a minute detail to everything, right? So, I was really, I like the action in it. I had a good time with it. Like, it
had some awesome crazy action at the end of, like, defying, let's jump through the debris, the sky full of debris, and make sure nothing gets hit, and we're going to use this parachute, and it's not going to be a problem of snagging on anything. And so there was some unbelievable moments there, but that was
comic book action.
Totally okay.
Comic book action.
Yeah. I did like, I think one of my favorite scenes, though, is kind of turns into the infiltration of the Red Room, and how that was. You kind of had Spy Black Widow again, right? Because you hadn't seen her like that. She was making a plan and fooling people, and the ruse of that was, and the coordinated effort of the super spy feel. That was fun to see. I think that was my favorite little moment there in that chunk of time.
So what do you think of actually finding out through dialogue Budapest? how that went down and how that doesn't necessarily jive with the jokes that are made in the first Avengers. Where they're like, this reminds me of Budapest. You may remember Budapest a lot differently.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. There was...
Because they're saying then that they just sat in a air vent for 5 days or whatever it was.
Yeah.
After they blew a building, basically.
Yeah.
How does that contend to being
what they were doing,
fighting aliens in the streets?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, because there would have been, she refers to there was no fighting involved at all like that. It was literally just covert. Yeah, we blew something up and then we had to run and hide. So
there's more details to it when you watch the movie, but
that's interesting to think about, because I was kept waiting, like they start talking about it. I'm like, oh, are we actually going to know what actually happened now? But apparently definitely remembered things differently.
Yeah, apparently. But I just thought it was an interesting throwback.
Why do that, right?
You could have still kept that one almost a bit more of a hidden thing.
All you got to do is just name it differently.
If you're not gonna show it in any way, then but who knows? So what do you think of David Harbour? He got to be in the MCU as Alexei, the Red Guardian.
He was adorable. That is my word for him. He's like a giant, scary Russian teddy bear. Yep.
It's interesting that he really liked to showboat and grandstand and saying that he fought Captain America, and that one guy tried to call him on his shit and he melted his hand.
That was pretty disturbing.
Right?
Yeah, he's super, super strong, and he's very... Well, and what's interesting is because he's still... it's not like he's good. He's still very much all for Mother Russia feel.
Yeah.
Because then he starts talking about them and he's praising them for how many people they've killed.
Yeah.
And, but he does it in such a loving fashion that you're like... It's okay. You're just trying to be good and supportive and you love them, but you sound crazy and horrible right now. It was very conflicting. But as I say, he was just so adorable.
Yeah.
I thought it was endearing.
Yeah. It's interesting that tried to make basically a bad Captain America,
right?
Enjoyable, right?
Yeah. He could have been... I mean, they wouldn't have been able to do the same thing if he had actually been a bad guy, because he wanted them to kind of have a relationship and a family and acceptance of things, right? But it wasn't like Natasha ever said it was okay with what he was doing, or anything like that. But he was trying to make amends for things, and it's he was very conflicted in himself, of what he. Opposed to what I'm supposed to be doing, what I think I should be doing, and all that. But then he's also scorned by them because they just threw him away after they didn't need him anymore, and which I think is probably what helped him want to help more, right?
Yeah.
Because did they think
he'll come back, and you think they'll use him again? Because I don't think they will.
I don't think so. I think it would be weird to use him again.
Yeah.
Because with the way that his character is now, I don't think there would be a real place for him anymore.
Unless they decide to actually do the full Russian team.
Yeah.
Because there is a Crimson Dynamo, which is supposed to be the Iron Man, and then there was a bear.
Okay, because I heard that name in there, so that's because she called him that.
Yeah.
And so that is an
it's the
character.
Russian Iron Man, right?
Oh, okay.
And then there was the there's a bear guy that's supposed to be the Hulk, turns into a giant bear.
Sweet.
But he's
But otherwise, I mean, there's really no point at all, because you don't really want him to come in to be a bad guy at all, any sort. But I don't think the world needs that, honestly, in my opinion. But that would be a stretching it for the MCU, I think. But who knows? Maybe Natasha will want to go back and try to help Russia.
Well, I know she said she's done.
Oh, she is?
This was her swan song.
Oh, okay.
So she felt that it ended her characters, especially with that end scene.
Yeah.
Right. More predominantly, more closure.
That makes sense.
So yeah, so she's done.
Okay.
So they're trying to tie up all those.
I guess that makes sense. Huh? I mean, she's been there forever.
Yeah, they're trying to tie up all those original contracts and making it nice and easy into the new generation, the next generation of characters.
So yeah, then with that, there's really no reason to bring him back at all because.
But
I guess you could.
What's her name? Still alive,
with
right?
her, yeah.
Because she's seen to be an end credit scene.
That is true. Then that would be a way to bring it back, and then she could.
He could be still alive. Yeah. Right? And you still could have the Crimson Dynamo back. Yeah. In some form. Not Crimson Dynamo. Okay. Red Guardian.
Red Guardian.
Right? But yeah, that idea, and that end scene credits is going to tie directly into the Hawkeye TV show, right?
Yes.
So we're going to see more of that in there. So then that makes me think even more. And this is then, of course, when it gets dangerous for speculation, because we don't actually have a release date for Hawkeye. We just have winter 2021. But when they gave him a family in the movie, I had always expected to see the Ultimates version then, where Widow is a double cross and kills his family. Yeah. And then when that didn't happen, I was like, well, that just seems like a waste, the snap thing. And then they came back. Then it was like, okay, well, now that end credit scene gives me hope
that they can still follow through on that.
They might pull that kind of thing. But then on the other hand, we know that the Hawkeye TV show is literally a torch film for them to get rid of Renner. Yeah. And bring Bishop in, which I'm totally okay with, because I think Haley Stafford will be a better fit for Bishop and all that, and to bring that next gen ahead. Yeah. Because we really didn't fully get to see a full Clint Barton. We've got to really, we got to super sanitize,
and with where he is now, you're not going to ever be able to come back and do that, even if he was willing to.
Yeah, with that Avengers feel, they're gone, right?
Yeah.
He's not gonna, especially with what happened with Natasha in Endgame, right? But we never got Clint the criminal. We never got all his different personas. We only got a glimpse at his Ronin, which didn't really make a whole lick of sense. Yeah. Right? If anything, it should have been some weird, to have Ronin, it should have been more of a weird glitch in the system where he got snapped, but then he came back and didn't know who he was. That would have made more sense, right? Because, he wore the Ronin costume because he came back from the dead. And he didn't know why he was back. And, so there's a lot of so I'm kind of okay with moving on from that. Yeah. And
well, you couldn't figure out do it right. So just be done with it now.
Yeah. Just put us Hawkeye fans out of our misery, right? And move on to the other Hawkeye. Yeah. And so hopefully you can do that one some justice, right? Yeah. Because at least she's already been shown in photos that looks like she's going to have her actual comic costume. Yeah. Clint never got that. Yeah. I'm not looking for the classic.
You kept looking at pictures being like, is that a little bit more purple?
each movie, the purple got more actually purple. It went from being red to maroon to finally in Civil War, purple. And I was like, yes. And then he became Ronin. Yeah. And I was like, you sons of bitches.
And screw you.
The Civil War outfit, that'd be a figure I wish that had come out. Yeah. I'm sad that I missed that hot toy, because that reminded me of that. So hopefully this show, we'll get to see, because it looks like he's gonna have the purple arrow on his chest.
Oh, nice.
So because it's gonna be a bit based on the Fraction run, some of it. So gotcha. Hopefully. But yeah, Black Widow was an enjoyable movie.
Some good action, some good girl on girl fighting.
Whoa.
Some of it was pretty intense, actually, though, because they're all so highly trained and just beating the crap out of each other.
Well, this had the Jason Bourne kind of
they even had the car scenes and everything.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty sweet.
I looked at my buddy when he's like, how does that work? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, let's try it tonight. Let's do this.
I like that they weren't. It almost felt a little bit more real in some of the spots, like when they did crash. Like it wasn't like they could just keep going in mystical fashion. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I really like the movie. I'm excited to watch it again. We've already talked about that. We want to watch it again. I think it'll help because there was a lot of details. And I know Kiddo, it would benefit him to watch it again because he had a hard time between honestly the accent and then not really, I think it was harder for him to be like, I don't know who these characters are, and to understand, like, it took him a lot to connect the time jumps and understand where they were related. So now that he knows some of that stuff, I think he might enjoy some of it a little bit more. He liked the action. He wanted to make sure I specifically told everyone that he really liked the movie. But I think it took him a little bit more of getting into, but yeah.
One thing we didn't talk about at all was the treatment of Taskmaster.
Oh, yes.
And now, as a casual movie viewer, if you know nothing about the character, it shouldn't bother you.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, so it was a little weird because it was kind of Darth Vader-ish. But I have no reason to be frustrated about it because I don't know anything about the character.
I know the character. I'm not really frustrated about it. I can see why they did it because he's one of those like overpowered characters in some form. Like,
yeah, totally.
The idea that he can just see someone's moves and copy them and they're like fighting yourself. So I understand that they were just trying to use an IP in form for the sake of using it. So that's where it does get kind of hard for those that are fans of the character that feel like they got, Mandarined.
Yeah.
Again.
And I don't blame them for that.
So it is hard because, you notice though that as good as the Marvel movies are, they do really nerf a lot of villains.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yeah, that's a common thing.
They did it with the Mandarin. Like, honestly, almost all their villains, they do treat fairly poorly.
Yeah.
They don't, like, they respect the hero source material so much, but the villains they play with a lot more, and they bend and contort them to be what they want. So there is their shortcoming there.
Yeah, for sure. You think about that, you're like, wow, that is actually
because like you look at them all and you realize that almost all of them, like, Whiplash was pretty,
that one comes to mind for sure.
Mandarin,
that one was awful.
Like, the only way that's going to pay off is if we see the actual Mandarin in Shang-Chi,
that they make up for it, and they're like, oh, that was just a fake.
That was all part of the plan.
And there's actually a real one out there, and then they could make up for it,
But, like, things like that, like, Ego, as much as I love Volume 2, Ego was very,
Yeah.
overly underpowered.
Yeah.
For what it was. Really, Thanos is about the only one that they really kind of did somewhat right in the grand scheme of making him terrifying. Right? And Killmonger, they did him pretty good. And that's one of those ones where it was sad that he did die, because it was like, wow, he actually, because they got rid of Claw so early.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like one of the big Black Panther villains. Right? And you just like threw him to the side like, like a dirty sock.
Yeah.
So yeah, you think about it, and like almost all of the Captain America, when you look at Crossbones, Bartok, like, even Red Skull. Yeah. Right. Like he was a one and done. And,
he should have been around so much longer.
How much cooler would have been to see Red Skull being more affluent to actually the masterminding behind all those kind of things. Zemo has the attitude, but doesn't have the look, right? Until the end here. Armazola was pretty much I start going through it, and then I start realizing there's really flaws in all these movies, as much as I enjoy them. But maybe that's why. Maybe because they've put all these, all the heroes are done so well.
Yeah.
that it's almost somewhat forgivable.
Yeah.
That they do nerf some.
I guess in some retrospects, it's better that the heroes are given a little bit more attention to show that that's what we
want to be.
Want to
strive
care about
to
them.
be.
Yeah. Opposed to like, let's really make sure the villains are really enjoyable and you're really exactly what you want to be.
Except for Michael Keaton's Vulture.
Yeah.
He was probably still the scariest of all of them because he was so calm.
Yeah. He was like full psychopath.
Like,
right.
I think back to that and I was like, no, Michael Keaton's Vulture is still a badass. And that's one of those characters that they did completely wrong, but they made it work.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't come out after going, man, they nerfed the Vulture. They were like, wow, I didn't realize the Vulture. That was a different
interpretation of it, and that was pretty scary.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Mind bomb.
There we go. We had a revelation on the whole MCU.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Honestly, I mean, the in Black Widow here, what is it? Draco?
That's Harry Potter.
I know. But I think that's it.
It's not Dimitri.
No, it's not Dimitri.
It's Dimitri.
Quickly, give a Russian name.
Come up with a Russian name. I come at you with the name of Russian played by British man. Dreykov. See, it was a Russian version of Draco. In Russia, we call Draco Dreykov because it's got the hard K.
Yeah,
he was Ray Winston.
Yeah,
he didn't have any Russian.
I was gonna say, I was a little disappointed though because he really did not seem Russian.
Oh yeah, well,
and I'm looking
Winston's
at him like you're not
British
Russian.
mobster.
Yeah,
right.
But he was scary only because he had so much power and control. So that, I mean, again, I have nothing but the movie to base this on, but he was definitely scary. With how much he could influence things in the network that he was.
And he lived in the sky. It was Hal's moving castle.
It was Hal's moving castle. Look at that.
Of assassins.
Right? Like, it's terrifying. These widows coming down from the sky. I mean, oh my goodness, right?
He just had mystical sky castle filled with assassins.
You have a better Russian. Well, that was a little Arnold.
There was too much. I need to stop now and get my head.
You're done. But before
get to the chopper.
You were doing Russian. You had more
not a tumor.
You had more of a Russian accent than the bad guy. So, okay, then there we go. I think we're done.
All right.
Because before Mike gets on Arnold Schwarzenegger kick. So.
I was going to try to do the accent again, but it was going to come out like Arnold again. So all we know for next week is we're coming back at you with Fear Street.
We know that
at
for
least
sure.
One new movie.
And Loki is finale.
Oh, yeah. We'll come back and talk about your love of Loki Gator.
Yes.
Alligator Loki. Because he's an alligator. He's not a crocodile because of the snout.
Yes.
The more you know about your reptiles.
Right.
Because it's a gator. You can tell because gators are boxy, more of a rounded box snout. Crocodiles are pointed like a triangle.
Thanks,
I didn't know that because I got Cajun blood in me, apparently. So, but yeah, so you know what? Stay rad.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. Want more rad content? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review.
And remember, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes!